I remember it like it was yesterday, even though it's been years. My name is Jake. I ain't much of a storyteller, but I got a tale that'll make your skin crawl. It's about this one time late at night when I decided to take a drive down this old back road. You know, one of those quiet, forgotten stretches of asphalt that the world seems to have left behind. The night was as black as coal, the sort of darkness that swallows up your headlights and makes the world outside the car feel like it's miles away. There was no moon, no stars, just me and the growl of my engine pushing through the night. The road was surrounded by dense woods, trees towering like dark specters, their branches reaching out towards the road like skeletal hands. The only sounds were the ones I brought with me: the hum of the engine, the crunch of gravel beneath my tires, the occasional flick of the radio dial as I searched for a station, any station, to break the silence. But there was nothing, just static. I guess even the airwaves had abandoned this place. Every so often the silence would be shattered by the howl of some distant animal or the rustling of trees as a wind would pick up. Each sound made me jump a little, made my heart beat a little faster, but I kept driving, kept pushing forward. There was something about the isolation, the darkness that drew me in, made me want to see what was at the end of this forgotten road. As I drove further, the night seemed to get darker, the woods denser. The road narrowed until it felt like I was driving through a tunnel of shadows. The world outside my car had disappeared, swallowed up by the night in the trees. I was alone, or so I thought. Suddenly I felt like I wasn't alone in the car. The air around me grew heavy, as if someone had sucked all the warmth out of the cabin. The temperature gauge on the dashboard blinked, dropping rapidly. I remember rubbing my hands together, trying to fight off the unexpected chill. The silence felt deafening, like a weight against my ears. My mind was shouting, screaming for an explanation, but all I could hear was the eerie quiet and my own shallow breathing. Out of nowhere, the radio flicked on. The sudden burst of noise had me jumping in my seat. It was an old tune, one I hadn't heard in years. The lyrics slipped through my mind like water through fingers, unable to be grasped, but familiar nonetheless. I tried to shut it off, but the buttons on the radio were unresponsive. The music continued to play, echoing through the car, an unwelcome serenade in the dead of night. In my rearview mirror, I saw her. A chill ran down my spine as I saw the reflection of a woman in the backseat of my car. She was sat there quiet as a church mouse, her pale, ghostly face staring out the window into the night. She was dressed in clothes that seemed from another era, a long coat with a fur collar, a hat adorned with a single feather. Her outfit was startlingly out of place with the modern interior of my car. It was like she stepped out of a black and white photograph, a relic from a time long past. Her face was as white as the moonlight that filtered through the car windows. She had a strange, sad look in her eyes. Her lips were pursed as if she was about to say something but thought better of it. Her eyes, oh, those eyes, they held an unfathomable depth of sorrow, a silent plea that sent shivers down my spine. I was petrified. My heart pounded in my chest like a hammer on an anvil. I could feel the blood draining from my face, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. I wanted to scream, to stop the car and run, but I couldn't. I was frozen in place, my eyes locked on the rearview mirror. Gathering every ounce of courage, I turned around to look directly at the back seat, but there was nothing. The back seat was empty, just as it had been when I started my drive. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, but the woman was gone, vanished into thin air. But her presence still lingered, a cold chill that hung in the air. I could still feel her eyes on me, those sad, pleading eyes. I was terrified, but I had to keep driving. I had to get out of that road. She was there one moment and gone the next. The chill in the air seemed to freeze my heart in place. I felt the cold seep into my bones as I stared at the empty passenger seat, the seat that just seconds ago was occupied by the mysterious woman. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. I stopped the car abruptly, the tires screeching against the desolate road. My headlights cast long, eerie shadows as I stepped out, my eyes scanning the surrounding darkness. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing loudly in the stillness of the night. I called out to her, my voice swallowed by the silence. There was no response, no sign of her, just the empty road and the chilling wind that seemed to whisper her name. I searched the area, my breath forming ghostly clouds in the cold air. I checked the roadside, the bushes, even the trunk of my car. But there was no trace of her. She was gone, as if she had never been there at all. Confusion and fear tugged at the edges of my mind. I tried to make sense of what had happened, but the more I thought about it, the more it felt like a bad dream. But the empty passenger seat was a stark reminder of the reality. The woman had been there, and now she wasn't. I got back in the car, my hands trembling as I gripped the steering wheel. The car felt colder, emptier. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and confusion. I wanted to leave this place as quickly as possible, to escape this nightmare. So I drove, faster than I've ever driven before. As the miles rolled by, I could still feel her presence. It was as if she had left a piece of herself in my car, in my mind. It was unsettling, chilling. I thought I had left her behind. I thought I was free of her. I thought I had escaped the horror that had unfolded on this haunted road. I thought I was free of her. I was wrong. I reached the end of the road and there was a diner. I remember the neon sign flickering in the night, casting an eerie glow on the deserted road. I pulled into the parking lot, my heart still pounding from the strange encounter. I needed a strong cup of coffee and maybe someone to talk to, someone to tell me I wasn't losing my mind. Inside, the diner was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the chilling night outside. A lone waitress, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a comforting smile, attended to me. As I sipped the steaming coffee, I found myself pouring out the strange story to her, about the mysterious woman and her sudden disappearance. I watched her face change as I described the woman. The smile faded, her eyes widened. She took a deep breath, paused for a moment, and then she spoke. "Sounds like you met Mary," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "A young woman who died on that road, about 20 years ago." The coffee mug slipped from my hand, crashing onto the floor, shattering the silence. "She was known to hitchhike back to her home," the waitress continued, unfazed by my reaction. "Her home used to be right where this diner stands now." The words hung in the air, heavy and ominous. The blood drained from my face. The terrifying truth hit me like a punch in the gut. I had given a ghost a ride. With a trembling hand, I paid the bill and walked back to my car. The night seemed darker, the road more desolate. I drove back down that road, praying I wouldn't see her again, but as I looked in the rearview mirror, there she was, smiling back at me. The road was haunted, and I, the unwitting witness to its resident apparition.